That's in from the side, ref.
Okay, we just had another brilliant weekend of rugby. Week 3 of the Autumn Nation series is wrapped up. I'm with my good buddy, Matthew Rhodes.
G'day, mate.
Yeah, welcome back to the show, Matt. Good to have you. We are going to do a bit of a wrap-up of Week 3. Some awesome rugby action, some really close games. We made some predictions last week. Some we got right, some we didn't get right. We're going to talk through all of it. We're going to put some focus on the Springboks, special mention to the boys. So, Matt, let's kick off. Friday night's game. Ireland, Argentina. You picked Argentina. I picked Ireland.
You did.
But it was bloody close in the end.
It went down to the wire. Great game all round, and kind of set the tone for some really close games all weekend. Two good teams, both of them pitched up, both had the opportunity to take the win, and fair play to Ireland.
Yeah, fair play to Ireland. Again, not convincing. Mm-mm. I don't know, there's something, there's definitely some energy lacking in that side. They're just not as accurate, and the urgency is just not in their game. But Argentina came so close. Again, if it wasn't for the odd yellow card, head contact, you know how I feel about these things. But I think they were in the hunt for a big part of the game, but they just left it too late. Yeah. There's just too much to do in the second half.
Yeah, two good teams. Obviously, Ireland have been crowing for years and years about how great they are and world number 1 and all this. They at world number 3, and they came up against an ascending team like Argentina, who are staking their claim. Both teams pitched up on the day. Both played good rugby, not great rugby, but good rugby. And Ireland managed to take it in the end. You look at the faces of the Irish players at the end. They didn't, there wasn't like super elation. It was more a relief that they'd managed to stop Argentina, who were in the ascendancy within the last phases of play, who looked like they were going to nick it. So if Argentina hadn't fumbled the ball in such a key moment, I think Ireland were really worried that they were about to lose the game. So again, final whistle goes, and the boys look relieved rather than ecstatic.
Yeah. Absolutely. Fantastic game in Dublin. Well done to the RGs. We continue to support the boys in the Southern Hemisphere, and let's hope they can put one over the French next week. But we'll get to the previews a little bit later.
Yeah.
Saturday kicked off Scotland against Portugal at Murrayfield. Again, we didn't think that Portugal were really going to challenge, and Scotland did sort of pick a second-string side. Comfortable win for the Scots, but Portugal were competitive at times.
Yeah, I thought Portugal stood up. Obviously, everyone expected Scotland to win, and the scoreline reflected some good Scotland play and some good tries. I thought Hastings played well, the backline played well, good tries in the corner. Darcy and Reid on both sides. But I was really impressed with Portugal. Before the game, in our prediction, our last show, I said that Portugal were the Georgia of a few years ago, and Portugal putting on 21 points against what has been a very good Scotland side of late, is a credit to them. And it wasn't just fluke lucky tries; they were they earned those tries. One in particular where their forwards fronted up and they pushed over and dominated a strong Scottish squad, up front, made the ball available for their number 9, who then goes and steals the try. It was good play by them, and so fair play to them for their 21 points.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like we said last week, we're very excited about where Portugal can go.
Yeah,
we've seen what regular top flight competition does to teams like Fiji and Argentina, and how competitive they are now. Hopefully, same happens for teams like Portugal and Georgia. So,
correct.
Time will tell. The big one on Saturday at Twickers at HQ.
Well, you were there, mate.
Yes, I was there, and it was epic. Let me tell you, it was a sea of green, and hopefully, when I watched the game on TV, you could actually hear all the South Africans in the stadium as well. It was an awesome game. Fantastic to be there. But again, when I look at the Springboks, we got the job done. But if you listen to Cheslin in the post-match interview, if you listen to Rassie, and again, you spoke about the Irish faces. If you looked at the box, happy with the win, but I don't think happy with the performance. What's your take on Saturday's game?
Again, not to be disingenuous to England, I think England have played well throughout this entire Autumn Nation series. They've been unlucky against New Zealand and against Australia. I don't think they were unlucky against us. I felt as a Springbok supporter, somewhat biased, you might say, but I never felt like our win was threatened. As in, I always felt like we were going to win it. So England were in the game throughout, but I just felt that we had superior firepower, both in the forwards and in the backs, and it proved with the amount of tries that we scored.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I don't think the result was ever in doubt. Even when they were 2019 up, I just knew, there's enough time. We've got players coming onto the field. When Pollard came onto the field, there was a calmness about that back line.
The composure that he brought, I think, also helped to settle everyone around him. My prediction the week leading in, I said that Marnie would have a good game, and, he had some good moments, but I wouldn't say that he had a good game. And so, for me, my frustration as a Springbok supporter was palpable until Pollard came on the field. And he just seemed to just settle everything down. Played some really good rugby himself, strong in defence, good in open play, but again, got his kicks.
I don't know what it is, and on this show we don't want to be negative. We always want to support players and back them all the way, which I know Russie's done with a guy like Marnie. For me, there's some serious question marks there. Obviously, if Sasha was fit, I don't think Marnie would be in the starting lineup. He'd be third choice. But every single time he's on the field, like you say, it's just like there's nervousness. You can see it about his play. There's been some really shaky kicks. There was one time the ball was popped to him and he didn't expect it and he just knocked it. And he made some really, really basic errors, which at that level you just don't expect from a 10. So, with Pollard on the bench, we always knew that, if it didn't go well,
we had the insurance policy.
Which it didn't, we have the insurance policy. But I'm just starting to ask, how long will this Marnie experiment last, and how long will Rassie continue to back him? We'll have to. I'm not saying he's a bad player. It's just in that pressure moment, specifically away from home, he doesn't fire on all cylinders, and he's not this. He doesn't play as well as we know he can.
My biggest concern about the game in review was how he didn't distribute the ball well enough to Damien and Jesse. Right, so by all accounts, they had a pretty quiet game, except for when Damien made that break that set up the try for Cheslin. Great try, but I was hoping that Marnie would be in the team to exploit our running backs better, not just to get the ball to the wings by kicking the ball into space for Cheslin to score, but actually seeing the vision, seeing the space, putting our centres in, using the crash ball, which then creates for space outside. And we saw very little of that. Jesse, by all accounts, had quite a quiet game. Damien had a quiet game, except when he was brought into the attack, broke through the tackles and created the space for the try. So that's the biggest disappointment for me. It's like, okay, so you're not kicking well, fine. You've got good vision. You're quick with the ball in hand. You're a good fly-half that puts people into space. Why aren't you doing that?
Yeah. That's why you get picked, right? And we expected that. Smash them up front and then give them some razzle-dazzle in the back. We did score 4 tries, but it's not, apart from Cheslin's first try, it wasn't because of the work that Lebok did. So, like I say, there's some serious question marks. But some of the standout players, I know we'll talk about Cheslin a little bit later in the show. One guy that he was from the stands, and we sat, fairly high up, just stood out was Jasper Wiese.
Yeah.
Dude, he was a wrecking ball. Never went backwards in the tackle, carried well, made his meters. He was very, very industrious. I was super impressed. And another guy who I'm really happy for is Wilco Low. I think he was solid. He went off, he got replaced. He had to come back on when Steenekamp got a yellow card. Put in a proper shift, and he looked really good. So I was happy for him.
Yeah, great. And I thought similar, Malcolm Marx, when he came on, was very, very strong. But we talked about it before, Jasper starting is the better solution, I think, because also when Kwaka came on later in the game, way more impactful.
Scotland, yeah.
So fair play. Jasper had a great game. I think a lot of our boys had really good games. But again, there were some star players. And coming back to the point, it just seemed to we settled into a bit of a groove when Andre was on the field.
Okay. Talking about settling into a groove, you are the rugby genius, Matt.
Here we go.
Let me ask you this.
Rugby genius.
25 minutes into the game, 5 tries.
Yeah.
Like, it's ding-dong, back and forth. They score, we score. I thought we were going to get like a 40-35 type, like we had with the Aussies and England. What happened in the last 60 minutes of the game, where we saw very little creativity, way more kick chases on both sides, England and South Africa?
Well, I think on England's side, that was the strategy that they were employing, right? So we talked about it. Van Poeltliet getting picked at 9, and then Freddie Stewart at 15. They were going to do a lot more of sort of an aerial attack, and we just saw that in full flow. I don't know if it worked to their favour, actually, but it was a bit of a war of attrition, and I think our defence stood up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't always have to be flash, and you can get your points on the board tally going really quickly, really fast by getting a few tries in, which I think England have done really well in the games that they've played. They start off, get out the blocks really strong, score a couple of tries early doors, look strong, and then they just seem to fade away in the game. And they're fading away, and our maintaining our level of skill through the game, I think, was the key elements there, where we were able to make we exploited their lack of dynamism while we just kind of steadied on and kept going for the full 80.
Yeah. So now the other big question, I don't want to talk about England too much, but they've lost 5 in a row. It's the first time since 2006 that they've lost 3 in a row at Twickenham.
Yeah.
So things aren't looking good. Does Steve Borthwick survive this? I saw the post-match comments between Ugo Monye and Courtney Laws. Courtney Laws, as an ex-player who played until the World Cup, was, very pro Steve Borthwick. No, we've got to give him time. Things will fall into place. Ugo Monye was ruthless. He's like, mate, this is not good enough. We need results. This is unacceptable. So where to for England?
It's a tough one because I don't think they're playing bad footy. I think they're playing good footy. They're just, you've mentioned it before, we've talked about it previous shows, their BMT is lacking. They've got, really good players that play well at provincial level and the club level. They've got good squad, strong players in backs and forwards, and they've got leaders. So I don't know. They're missing a bit of magic sauce at the moment. So is it a strategy issue? Is it a coaching issue? Is it a player issue? I think they've got the players to do well, but they're just not finishing. They're not. I was watching Will Greenwood talk about how they're nice boys at the moment, right? Where and fair play, ex-players have by rights, the opinions that they have. They can come out and say these things where they just seem to be really strong players that don't have the killer mentality or the killer attitude. Yeah. How do you manufacture that? Again, is it a coaching issue or is it a player issue? It's yet to be seen.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's going to be interesting. Let's see what happens to Steve Borthwick. They've got Japan next week, so at least they're going to come away with 1 win. But the big match on Saturday evening, moving on from the Bok game, was the All Blacks in France, in Paris. Was that just not the best haka you've ever seen? The way they respected it with the spotlights on the two teams, they did that really well. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I did too. It was a great start to what was a fantastic game. I think the game of the weekend. And we called it before, 2 teams going hammer and tongs, 2 great teams fronting up, and some good tries, some good play all around, both in the forwards and in the backs. And it came down to the wire. And I think you picked New Zealand to win it.
I did.
By like a couple. I picked France to win it by a couple. And it came down to literally.
Yeah, it was one of those games that could have gone either way. Really.
But most of the games this weekend could have done that.
Yeah, but I heard some of the pundits on YouTube say this is potentially a nomination for Game of the Year. I wasn't able to watch it. I was on my way back from Twickers, but saw the highlights. The intensity was there for 80 minutes.
Yep.
Both teams fronted. Like you say, hammer and tong, back and forth. This new guy that debuted for the All Blacks, Lakai, getting his first try.
Peter Lakai.
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. awesome try. France, they surprised me, and I think they. I was of the opinion always that we hurt them in the World Cup and that they've never really recovered psychologically.
So. Yeah, you said so.
But again, they stepped up and they proved to the world that they are serious contenders and they deserve to be in the top 4, and they're going to be bloody tough in the Six Nations. So good on them. They're a good side, and they've also blooded some young players. There's some new players in the team that's getting an opportunity now, and they're all doing bloody well.
Yeah, and New Zealand, France is New Zealand's banana skin. They always seem to slip up against France. I feel sorry for the New Zealand friends that watch this, because they'd be hurting. They were on a bit of a run. They played well. It was a good game. Could have gone either way, but for some reason the French seem to be their poison chalice.
Yeah. We keep talking about the All Blacks building and getting better and better with every game. A couple of records that were broken this year. The first time in, 70 years that they lost 4 games in a row to South Africa. It's the first time in 30 years that they would lose 3 on the trot against France. So not 2 records that New Zealand would want in their bank. But interestingly, France, the last 3 games, they've been better than the All Blacks.
I think New Zealand, regardless of what happens this weekend coming, I think New Zealand can be kind of chuffed with the way that they've gone about this Autumn Nation series so far, even though they've lost to France. I think that they've played some good footy, because they didn't come into this Autumn Nation series with, shrouded in gold and glitter. There were some question marks, and they've answered some, but I don't think they've answered all.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to Sunday's games. We had Australia-Wales.
Georgia-Italy.
Oh, and Georgia-Italy before that. Okay.
Yeah, Georgia-Italy first. You picked Georgia to win it. We were divided again. Italy.
They almost did. They were leading. They were leading for the majority of the game.
Up to about 50 minutes, right? And then the yellow card again, which then turns into, I think, a penalty try immediately. That's the turning tide of the game, because it brought Italy back in. But Georgia, fair play to them. They can hold their heads up high. It was a fantastic game.
Fantastic game. I am beginning a petition on the show. This is the first time you hear this. I want promotion relegation in the Six Nations. I think it's just fair. Yeah. Even if it's Wales in their current form losing out in next year's Six Nations, teams like Georgia deserve an opportunity, because they are so bloody competitive. And if you think how young their rugby union is, they only formed in 1990. I mean, they're like the babies of world rugby. But
Mate, they've only got 8,000 registered rugby players in the country.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
No, it's nuts. It's nuts. I mean, they're going to come good at some point. They've beaten Wales at Cardiff, and they've pushed the Aussies close. So at some point, they're gonna smash some big teams. They're like Thanos. They're inevitable.
I am inevitable.
They're inevitable.
It's going to happen.
Mate, they're big buggers. They're solid boys.
And they love scrumming. They just want to scrum.
They just want to scrum all the time. But key to their win, not their win, their almost win over the weekend, was some sensational play in the back line.
Yeah.
Some really exciting guys in the back line there. Yashvili, the names I will not mention.
All the Villies, dude. They're all Afrikaans dudes.
All Afrikaans.
All the Villies.
All the Villies. Yashvili played really, really well. I thought. A lot of passion. They're a passionate bunch anyway. But they were worth their weight in gold.
Yeah. Unlucky not to come away with a win. I still think it was a good pick for my outside pick for the week. But well done to Italy. They deserve to win. Last game of the weekend was Australia-Wales. Again, I don't think the result was ever in doubt. We both thought Australia would win. But I didn't think by that margin. Yeah. Dude, Wales is in serious trouble.
They are. And again, we talked about it in our prediction show. I didn't see where Wales were going to pull their inspiration from. And clearly, they just haven't been able to do that. They can't manufacture it. They can't pull. Like, it's tough being a Welsh rugby player right now. Not only because they're losing consistently, and it's going to be their worst for, I don't know, you mentioned like years and years and years, but like they're getting some heat both in the media and from ex-players as well, and rightly so. legends of their game in their country are looking upon this and going, why are we in this position? Is it a coaching issue? Is it a player issue? It seems to be consistently that people are saying that they're a young team, an inexperienced team. They don't have as much leadership and experience around them. But then that's a succession planning issue.
Yeah.
And so you've got to look at your sort of coaching and administration for that. But they're in a world of pain at the moment.
Yeah, but in saying that, credit to the Aussies, because they flipped the switch.
Yeah.
Right? They were poor for the at the beginning of the year, struggled in the rugby champs, only won one game, and they've come good on this tour. And now suddenly, 2 wins from 2, they're staring a Grand Slam in the face. If they can pull off wins against Scotland and Ireland, which is not beyond their reach with the way they're playing, it's a great way to finish the year for the Aussies. And I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
As much as I'm a proud South African, we need a strong Australian side in world rugby. I can't, deal with them being ranked 7th and 8th in the world. They need to be like top 6 at least.
Agreed. I think it's great for Aussie rugby union at least, and for Aussie in general. The Southern Hemisphere teams need Australia and New Zealand to be at their best, for us to be, as Bokke fans, and for the Bokke itself to be at its best as well. We need to come up against the best opposition. And so, our Trans-Tasman friends doing well is always a good thing, because the level of play that they bring to the game is only just going to keep everything elevated.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's where the difference is between sides like Wales and Australia, because a lot happens on the field and a lot comes down to coaching, but structurally you need that support from a union side.
Yeah.
And it seems like whatever Phil Waugh's doing now that he's heading up Australian rugby, it's working, right? They invested in some players coming over from the NRL. They got Joe Schmidt over, got a proper coach. Like, they're making the right calls. Wales, on the other hand, I know there's calls for getting someone like Sam Warburton in to be like a director of rugby, same way that Rassie was when Jacques Nienaber was coach. So I think they've got some work to do from an administrative level to get their rugby right. Like you say, it's a succession planning thing. You can't blame inexperience for scores like that.
But the issue is you're reacting now.
It is reactive.
So the problem is now, and they're deep in the thick of it. And so whatever knee-jerk reaction they make, if they're going to go down that route, is only going to exacerbate things and make things worse, in my opinion. I don't think this is the time for knee-jerk reactions. It's going to be tough against the Bokke this weekend. I don't see them winning. We'll talk about that in our prediction show, but it'd be tough for them to compete against the Bokke after the way that they played. And so you've got to kind of look at this and almost put a line through this year and start again. So something like maybe bringing in Sam Warburton into the framework. They worked well as a coach and captain team and unit, and they know each other well, Gatland. And so keep him on. He's credible. He's done well with Wales before, and maybe the two of them together can be the secret sauce that gets them firing again.
Yeah, well, I have to see what happens. But congratulations to the Aussies. It was a great game. So after all the games on the weekend, we sat down, we debated, we did hours and hours of intense match analysis, and we picked our top 5 tries. Here they are.
Down to his throw, everything needs to be on point, and it has.
There's Mark Cover. This is Kakoitsa, one of the youngsters in this Georgia side, just 21.
Play on.
Oh, there's some space, and through goes Spandabashvili, and they're lining up Mark Cover, the inside ball, and they have the try.
Happy live.
And there he is, the flying wing. What has been a high tempo and high entertainment first half. Niniashvili didn't have to get off the ground for that one. Sees some space, and he's gone. And Niniashvili is so dangerous. He's got round Galbisi, and he finds his captain.
Happy live.
Gorgeous Georgia. Out of this world. David Niniashvili.
Skelser trying to run through Van der Fleer. Bertranu has just opened up a tiny bit here as Albornoz comes steaming through, and Malia breaks clear and steps Hansen and goes all the way. Stellar from Juan Cruz Malia. They're looking for a spark. They found it in their fullback.
Taken to the ground by Wilco Lowe. Libok. Smith swings across, but he's beaten to the ball by Aronson. Player of the match in the win here a couple of years ago, and South Africa having a look down that left-hand side. Snyman does nicely to employ Apaleli Fassi, Sharks fullback. And then the little break and away they go, and South Africa scoring an absolute peach. What about that? Grant Williams brought in for his roller skates, and immediately he's on them.
And again, it's England's midfield defence that creates pressure.
Pollard, Smith. Pollard bouncing around on his toes. It's Diolende first, however. Oh, and he's got through the brute strength, and then the pass to Colby. And Colby's feet take him over the line. It's been a tale of fast South African feet, and nothing England can do about it.
Okay, so let us know in the comments, which tries we should have put in the list. What did we miss out on? This was really just our opinion. Another new little section or little snippet in our show is the MVP of the week. So Matt did a lot of the analysis. Matt, who was the standout players on the weekend?
So I thought just the players of the game, Ireland, Argentina, the two tens, Albinos and Crawley, both played well in my opinion. They both kept their teams in the games, fighting to the end, and obviously Ireland went away with the win. Italy v Georgia, Yeshvili playing number 15, exciting running with the ball in hand for Georgia, good defensively, showed heaps of passion throughout the game, so he was the standout player for that game in my opinion. Scotland, Portugal, I thought Hastings for Scotland. Special mention for Portugal, as we said though, 3 good tries, good playing across the field, but Hastings was the player of the game there in my opinion. France versus New Zealand, good players all round, but Ramos for me, some really good play in defence, also in transition and in attack, and then deadly from kicking the ball off the deck. So he kept France in it right up to the end, and obviously they won and took the W. For Wales and Australia, Fessler and Tom Wright, both of their hat-tricks were really good, but for me Valentini was immense. Epitomised by the tackle he made right at the end. He stood up and he had that kind of go forward that kept his forwards energized. He was the engine for that sort of that grunt and that go forward in the pack, which also get the impetus to the back line for them to go forward and to be on the front foot. So Valentini was, as I say, immense. And then in the England versus South Africa game, for me, a standout person, and the person I think who stood out above everyone else that I've just mentioned, was Cheslin Kolbe.
Absolutely, I second that wholeheartedly. Cheslin is our MVP of the weekend.
Correct.
Just again, his stepping he'll step you in a ticky box.
Mate.
He's got feet, he's got magic feet, which I don't know how he does the things that he does.
But it's not just his feet, it's not just his stepping. He's amazing on defence. He reads the game well. He's outstanding in the air.
He's in the air under the high ball, because he's so diminutive versus a guy like Stewart, but he made him look like an amateur. He was just solid under the high ball. His defence, as always, was on point. Both him and Kirtley. Kirtley put in some big tackles, both of them. And that step where he just stepped Jamie George on the inside again, it's a thing of beauty.
It is a thing of beauty.
Never get tired of watching Cheslin.
So we just showed Cheslin's second try made by Damien Dallender, but his first try, where the kick comes in from Marnie, one of the good things that Marnie did, sees the space, puts it onto Cheslin, ball's a bit high, should have been a bit more flatter. Freddie Stewart coming through at pace, and Cheslin steps him like a Springbok does, evading the line coming through.
But do you know what makes Cheslin such an awesome player? Is he reads the game like 10 seconds before things happen.
He's got the vision.
He just predicts what's going to happen. He scored that try, the first try he scored. I read somewhere someone said it was the first try ever scored where the player stepped the defender without stepping him. It's like he knew what Stewart was going to do. He knew it was an easy step on the inside. Same with the try on the right against Slightholme. He knew he was going to step before he even got the ball.
Yeah.
He read the game that well. So That's our MVP of the weekend.
Cheslin Colby.
Cheers
to him.
Cheers, Chesy.
Well done, Chesy. MVP of the weekend. He played exceptionally well, 2 tries. Ooh.
It's going to be interesting to see if Cheslin plays against Wales. I suspect Rassie will pick a different team, but we will talk about that in our next show, and we'll do the predictions on week 4. So thank you, Matt, for your time, and we'll see everyone next week. No, sorry, later this week.
Later this week.
But in the meantime, while we figure out when we shoot this, guys, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, share this with your mates, follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We're on all the social media platforms.
All the socials.
We appreciate the support. We have grown our audience base from 13 to 14 people.
Whew.
So we are getting there slowly but surely. But
thanks to all my family, all your family, all the family of family. Thanks for watching.
Absolutely. But Matt, it's been fun. Cheers.
Always, my buddy. Cheers. And here's to another good week of rugby coming up.
Cheers.
Cheers.